Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome everyone in today's class for the first elementary grade. Our textbook is Week 1 and today inshallah we'll cover Unit 3, Toys and Things, Phoniccs Practice number 1 on page 34. This lesson will be presented by me, teacher Mazen Harbi, and the sign language by Mr. Fawaz Al-Agil. So let's begin. So a quick revision on our last lesson. Last lesson we did learn a new grammar rule, and that grammar was about adding s, to the word. So when, for example, when we do have one robot here, we don't add anything to the word. But when we have more, like for example 2 or 3 or 4, here in this case, what we need to do is to add s to the letter. Here, what we need to do is to add s to the letter. So we can say 1 robot and 2 robots. Here we added s. 3 robots. Here we do add s. And then 4 robots. And here we add s. We say that the more we have, then we need to make we need to add letter S to each word. So not only one word, but also to have more of them. Not only this, but we did also learn a funny game and an interesting one, where I ask you to ask your friends, maybe your family members or your classmates to gather at a table. And what you need to do when you gather at this table is to play the 1 robot, 2 robot chant, which is when you put your hand and your hand only, you would say 1 robot. And if the others comes in and he put his hands on top of your hand, then he should say 2 robots. And then when a third one came in and put his hand above all your hands, then he would say 3 robots. And it goes and continues. So in this game, it's funny. Why? Because it helps us to cooperate, and also it helps us to know this rule, which is we need to add s the more we have. The more we have things. For example, if we have 1 hand or 1 robot, we don't add anything. But if we have 2 or more hands or 2 or more robots, here in this case, we need, as you can see here, we need to add s to the word. Here it's very important that we add s to the word, as you can see them here. And it doesn't stop at 4. Maybe there will be 7 robots, maybe 7 hands can be on the table, maybe 6 robots, maybe 9 robots, and maybe 8 robots. So the more people will play, the more fun it will get. But what is most importantly here is that we do add s to each word. The more we have, then we need, in this case, to add s. This is what we did learn last time about this fun game. So let's get to know our objectives of today's lesson. Our objectives in today's lesson, we hope that at the end you will be able to trace the first letter you hear and write it on the line. So what we need to do now is we help you to trace each letter you hear and also to write it down. So not only tracing, but also writing on the line. So, and now let us move on. So what we're going to do here, you will see a page similar to this, where you do have all these letters and these writing lines. So what we're going to do here today is that we're going to do 3 things. First is listening. We're going to do listening first, and then tracing, and then writing. 3 things. And what are we going to practice on? We're going to practice on 5 letters. The letters are A, B, C, D, and E. So now I'm going to show you an example with the first one. I'm going to say a letter, then after you listen, you should trace this letter and then you should write it on the line. So let's start with number 1. So here we go. This is number 1. We have 5 letters, A, B, C, D, and E. So I'm going to say one letter, and when you hear this letter, what I want you to do is to trace this letter and to write it down on the writing line. So let's start. Number 1, letter A. Letter A. So here we go. We listen to letter A. What we need to do is to trace letter A. Not only this, but we're going to bring it here down the line and we're going to write it down. We are going to write it down. So here we go. This is letter A. This is letter A. So here, we did listen to the letter, and then we did trace the letter, and we wrote the letter down on the line. Now let us move on to number 2. Number 2. Now I'm going to say a letter. What I want you to do after you listen to this letter is to trace it, to find the letter, trace it, and then write it down here on the line. So let's start. Number 2, letter B. Letter B. So we now listen to letter B. Now it is time to trace letter B. Now it is time to trace letter B. So here we go. We did trace letter B. What we need to do next is to go here and to write it on the line. To go here and to write it on the line, as you can see here. So here with number 2, we listen to the letter, we trace it, and then we wrote it here on the line. It is a fun exercise. Let's move on to number 3. Number 3 now, again, we're going to listen to a letter, trace it, and then we're going to write it down. Number 3, letter C. Letter C. Very well. So now we're going to trace letter C. We are going to trace letter C, as we can see here. And after we do trace letter C, we're going to write it here on the line. We're going to write it here on these 2 lines. So letter C comes here between these 2 lines. Letter C. Letter C. Very good. And now, as you note, that all of these letters are in small letters. So mostly we're going to keep them between these 2 lines. Now, let us move on to number 4. Let us move on to number 4. Let's listen to the letter, and then we're going to trace the letter, and then we're going to write it down. Number 4, letter D. Letter D. Very well. So here we do have the letter. What we need to do is that we're going to trace it like this, and then we're going to write it down on the line. So as you can see here, we did trace the letter, and now we're going to write it here down the line. Letter D. So here you go. On number 4, we listened to letter D, we did trace it, and we wrote it back again on the line. Now let us move on to number 5. Let's listen to the letter in number 5, and then we'll trace it and write it down again. So number 5, letter E. Letter E. So very good. So here we're going to trace letter E like this, and then we're going to write it back again here between these two lines. We're going to write it back again here between these two lines, letter E. And let us move on to number 6, the last one. Here we're going to listen to a letter and then we're going to write it down. So number 6, letter B. Letter B. Very well. So here we listen to letter B. What we need to do is that we're going to trace it like this, just like this, and then here we're going to write it back again in these two lines. Here we're going to write the letter B between these two lines. So here you go. We did the first part. So we did listening, we did trace the letters, and also we did write them on the writing lines. Now let us move on to the second exercise we have for today. So here we're going to do the same exercise but with different strategy. So what we're going to do here is that we're going to listen not to letters but to word, a full word. And what we need to do when we listen to a word, we need to write only the first letter, only the first letter. We don't have to write the full word. Okay, so we're going to listen to one of each of these 5 words, and then we're going to write only the first letter. So here, for example, here we have the word apple, apple, and the first letter of the word apple is letter A. Very good. And here, the second word we have is bear, bear. And the first letter of this word is letter B. And here, the third word is cow, cow. And the first letter of this word is C. And here, in the fourth one, or the fourth word is duck, duck. And the first letter of this word is D. And finally here, the word is egg, egg. And the first letter of this word is E. So what we're going to do is that we're going to listen to a word and then we're going to write the first letter of each word. So let's begin. Number 1, now we're going to listen to a word, and then we're going to write the first letter. So the first word we have is apple, apple. So the word apple starts with letter A. So here we're going to write letter A. Here we're going to write letter A. A, because it's from the word apple, and we wrote the first letter, which is letter A. Now let us move on to number 2 and listen to the second word. The second word with letter 2 is, or number 2 is, bear, bear. And the first letter of the word bear is letter B, letter B. The first letter of the word bear is letter B. Now, let us move on to number 3 and listen to the word and write only the first letter. And number 3, the word is cow, cow. And the first letter of the word cow is C, C. The first letter of the word cow is letter C, C. Excellent. And number 4, we're going to listen to the fourth word, and we're going to write the first letter of this word. Number 4, the word is duck, duck. And the first letter of the word duck is letter D, D. The first word is, or the first letter of this word is letter D. And in number 5, we're going to listen to a word and then we write the first letter. So in number 5, the word is egg, egg. And the first letter of the word egg is letter E, E is letter E. So here we go. We're going to write down letter E, letter E. So now we did finish almost all of these 5 letters. And now we'll move on to the last one, number 6. Now on last one, number 6, we're going to hear a word that we already heard. But it's okay, we're going to write it again. So on number 6, the letter is, or the word is bear, bear. So the first letter of this word is letter B. So here you go, here we're going to write down letter B. So here you go. This was our final exercise in today's lesson, where we listened to different words and we wrote only the first letter of each word. Now, at the end of this lesson, it's very important that you can listen and point and say the names of toys. Not only this, but also say a name of some clothes. And also to make sure you can write all of these 4 letters that we did learn in this lesson. So now we have reached the end of our lesson. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.